As you learn about the narcissistic pattern, it's also wise to reflect on the much healthier alternatives. Now, below you're going to find a link to my new extensive course called Ready, Set, Connect. It addresses both the mindset and the skills involved in gratifying relationships, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. I'm sure you've heard the term gaslighting as it relates to the way that a narcissist can engage with you. When we talk about a narcissist gaslighting, what we're saying is they want to keep you in a state of confusion about your own thoughts and your own legitimacy and your own perceptions. They want you to question what is real. For example, they just may say something simple like, I don't think you saw the same scene that I saw because you got your facts wrong. And they want to create doubt. Or they may say something like, no, that's not what happened. Or I thought I explained myself very clearly when in fact you may have been really onto something. But they have all these little catchphrases that they like to use to let you know there's something in the way that you view life that's way off base. You need to go back to the basics and get your act together. And in doing so, that's their gaslighting. Now, when they gaslight, basically it's their way of trying to create a feeling of distortion. It's like you don't know how things are. Now, there's a really interesting insight that I want you to operate with, and that is before a narcissist can gaslight you, that person has already been gaslighting themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you take a look at the whole pattern of narcissism, you have to have a lot of rationalization that you're using to justify why it's okay to be a constant controlling person, or that it's okay for you to gripe and moan and groan and criticize. They've already explained to themselves, well, there are good reasons for that. They have raw selfishness, or they're entitled, or they're ridiculously defensive, or, they have double standards. And so as they gaslight you and say, you don't know what you're talking about, then they operate with all of these improper kinds of standards and principles. What it says is they're lying to themselves before they lie to you. And so it's so important for you to recognize that's part of their defense mechanism, because as they try to make it all about you, I'm hoping you can see straight through it and realize, no, there's something bigger going on here, and I'm not going to carry that burden that they're unwilling to shoulder on their own. Let me give you a simple illustration. I had a man who had a big bad blow up with his whole extended family, and he was yelling, and there were opinions being thrown, and he was cursing, and spittle was coming out of his mouth and all of that. Later on, he told me, he said, I wasn't really that angry. It's just we just had a spirited discussion. And I'm thinking, yeah, you were angry. And you were unloading all of your vitriol on all these people. And so what he was implying was those people out there that interpret me the way they do, they don't know what they're talking about. And he would want to gaslight those family members when in fact, no, ultimately, the problem is you've already gaslit yourself. You're lying to yourself. And in doing so, he was inside that distorted state and couldn't pull out of it. Now, I want to give you some other illustrations of how this can work. For example, many times narcissists in their attempt to gaslight you may say, well, I don't have a self-esteem problem. You do. Okay, so when you look at that and you realize how easily dysregulated they are emotionally and overbearing, and how willing they are to argue, and how offended they are when you don't agree with them, and they're over there saying, well, I don't have a self-esteem problem, you do. They're trying to make you doubt your interpretation when in fact they're overlooking the glaringly obvious truth. You're an insecure person, aren't you? That's their gaslighting of themselves. Or another illustration. Narcissists can say, well, actually, my way of managing life and prioritizing and handling projects, etc., mine's the best way. Now, never mind the fact that they have to cajole and argue and cut corners or whatever it is they do to get there. You're the idiot if you don't go along with their ways, and the fact that they're unopen or not open to input, that's them gaslighting themselves again. It's like, well, they've convinced themselves you're such a complete person, you don't need input. That's not honest, and they've bought into that dishonesty. Or they may say, another way that they have gaslit themselves, they may say, well, if you interpret me as offbeat or unreliable or irresponsible, well, what that means is you have a perception problem. And the implication, they're gaslighting you, but the implication is I'm truly the standard bearer for reliability and responsibility, when in fact it's like, no, you're not. But you're unwilling to take a look at your contributions to whatever kinds of difficulties that are there. You're gaslighting yourself. And the narcissist will look at you and say, what are you talking about? That's part of it. Now, one of the most common things that they'll do is they'll try to build themselves up in a very positive kind of way, and in doing so, they minimize any criticisms you might have about them. For example, they may say something like, I want you to take a look at all of the nice things that I've done for other individuals. Would I be doing that if I were as bad as you say that I am? Or they may say something like, I don't have problems with anybody else except you. Now, they overlook the fact that their relationship with you is not an apples to apples comparison to anybody else. And then they also may overlook the fact that they have plenty of other broken relationships. But they like to hold themselves up as being such a good and wonderful kind of person. They're the standard bearer, when in fact, well, the fact that you do nice things, and sometimes they do, doesn't negate the fact that, but you can also be argumentative and destructive and all like that. They have such all or nothing thinking that they're unable to understand nuance. And so they just point to certain selective kind of things about themselves, but they lie to themselves about the reality of those other difficulties. Or they may say something like, you're just somebody that I don't even know anymore. And I used to think well of you, but now I don't. When in fact, actually, what they're really saying is, I don't know what to do with you. I don't feel competent to know how to blend well. So there are all sorts of ways that they try to gaslight you into thinking that you are the problem, and they want to keep confusion, when in fact what they're doing is they're projecting their own lifestyle confusion that's part of their unfinished business onto you, and they're not coming to terms with the fact that they don't look at truth very well. It's part of what we call their alternate reality. So I want you to recognize that each time a narcissist attempts to make you look like you're the problematic person, and you're very confused and you're very inappropriate in the way that you interpret things, actually it's a projection of their own inner confusion and their own poor interpretations. Now, one of the sad things that we can say that's a byproduct of that is that the more they lie to themselves and they live inside their own distortions, then the less likely it's going to be that they're going to be able to receive input for having healthy engagements down the road. On one hand, I want to sit down with that narcissistic person and say, hey, we can do better than this. And believe me, I've tried with many of them, but then they'll come back in their own self-distortion and say, yeah, we really can. And starting with you. And so they've lied to themselves in thinking that, I don't need to be the one. If you would just get your act together, I'd be just fine. So be very slow to react when they give you these, doubtful or questioning kind of comments about you, and realize they're actually revealing some of the confusion that they're not coming to terms with on the inside of themselves. And also know that when they bring this rationalization to the equation, This isn't about you. They've been building these self-distorted thoughts and building upon those self-distorted thoughts for a long, long time. They want to make you think that you're the problem when in fact they're confused people. They don't understand life very well. So when a narcissist implies, I'm going to be the one who says, this is the way it is, let's recognize that they've already lied to themselves about the way it is before you ever showed up on the scene. And that implies, well, I need to then learn how to trust my gut. I'm not going to go into the state of confusion that they're inviting me into. Someone in this equation needs to say, I know who I am. I have an understanding of healthy living, and I know what ingredients are part of those healthy relationships: dignity, respect, civility. I'm going to listen to what my gut tells me, and I'm not going to get caught in that web of distortion that they're trying to impose upon me. I hope that videos such as this can give you some good insight about what you're dealing with. If you've not already done so, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell that goes with it, and we'll keep more videos coming your way. I know that as you're trying to sift this out, sometimes it can be good to have a therapist that can help you unpack this. And I'm very pleased to let you know that we have a sponsor that will help you in this. There's a link below to our BetterHelp people, and they have a whole team of licensed professional therapists that can assist you with online therapy. And if that's something that you would be able to take advantage of, I would certainly encourage you to do that. In addition, I have my courses, and these are meant to have a therapeutic angle as well, where we talk about, one is called Ready, Set, Connect, about how to have the healthy approach toward life. This is me, about establishing boundaries. Free to Be, about finding yourself despite the controllers. And there are multiple videos with written material and questions and all that will walk you through that in a very extensive kind of way. In addition, we have other resources like my books and more things below. So avail yourself to all of that. Okay, just know that if a narcissist wants you to think you're confused, what they're doing is they're making a confession. And when you see that, and you can stay unhooked from all of the shenanigans that go with it, then I'm hoping you can be your own steady and self-confident individual, because in doing so, it's your way of saying, I want to find my peace from within. And if you, the narcissist, are unable to join me in that, I still want to be a person of peace. That's who I am.